have a question and answer session after this, and just save those till the end of it. We'll get you taken care of.
Wow, thanks for coming out here. What a great thing to see. Music Mondays of the Ozarks. Like, wow, when Chris called me up, Albert called me up and said, hey, think about maybe doing this. I went, I don't know. There's an awful lot of people that have had a whole lot better career than I have, but you know, I would love to do it. So I feel very blessed and honored to be here. Well, I guess my same influences would be the same as Steve and I. We had parents that were like really big jazz fans, and big band jazz music was in my dad's, you know, that was probably his favorite music of all time. But the Beatles hit in 1964, so that was like the big deal. And I wanted a drum set, but they actually said, no, I think we'll just get you a snare drum, and we'll get you some drum lessons. Sorry, I got a little close there. But, which was actually the best thing they could have done. I didn't really know that at the time. But so they said, I will get you drum lessons, and you can get you a snare drum. So off I went to learn as much as I could about drumming. So also, they took me to a Christmas parade. And that kind of also got the ball rolling as well. So there I was trying to learn how to play the drums, but they're not going to give me a drum set. So anyway, I kept taking lessons for 6 years. I took lessons. You could actually participate in all-city orchestra. Am I too far away? Okay. In all-city, they called it all-city music festivals. And if you took private lessons, you could actually enter a drum solo or whatever your instrument was. So I got to memorize the snare drum parts and all the rudiments. So the drum rudiments at the time, which was actually really invaluable to me. But you know, the funny part about it is, you could get, when in regular school, they gave you you got comments when you performed your solo. But in high school, they actually rated you a 1, a 2, or a 3. So the funny thing was, I actually went to school with Dr. Curtis Lockhart, Steve Hart, and me and Alan Kemper all had this song. It was called a quartet, and it was called The Four Horsemen. And when you perform in the all-city music festivals, if you get a 1 at the school, you get to go to state. So, which means you get to compete for a 1. If you get a 1, in the school system. So, me and Curtis Lockhart, who, like I said, Dr. Curtis Lockhart, and we had a couple of accidents right before we were supposed to go to Columbia, Missouri to perform at the, for the professors there. So, I sprained my leg, and Steve Hart had a blown out knee. So 2 of us were like injured. So we go to the auditorium and open the doors, and there's like at least 50 people sitting there. Everybody fell out because we actually literally stumbled through the door. But we actually got a 1. So that was like unbelievable highlight for sure. But Dr. Curtis Lockhart and I were kind of like rivals for most of our life. But anyway, he went on to do a whole bunch of good things. Okay, the first band that I was in was with my cousin Steve of any significance. It was called Zap. And we have a whole bunch of funny stories with that band, but a couple of them is we, of course, were big Deep Purple fans. And we had to have a Hammond B3 and a Leslie. Larry Gilmore had 2 Leslies. So here we are dragging that Hammond B3 organ around everywhere. We drug that thing up and down stairs. And one time we showed up in this parking lot and we think we're going to play in the parking lot. Oh, no. There's a pavilion halfway across the field. You have to drag that equipment all the way across the field. So here we go, dragging that stuff all the way. It was like, oh my gosh. But that was a great band, Steve. We had some good times. And I'm very blessed to play with that band. Every band is like Brit, seems to have, you either meet somebody in the band or you know somebody in that band, and it leads to something else. And at that time, Jim Kempinen recorded Zap. And we actually have that on a CD. He would bring a reel-to-reel to work, or to where we played, and record the band. So we actually have a recording of Zap, which is awfully cool. Thank you, Steve. For sure. Well, anyway, so then the next band of any significance was called Dead Serious. It was with Vernon Boyce and Jim Kempinen. And we actually got to record at Broadway Sound Studio in Muscle Shoals, Alabama. Vernon's dad met this guy named David Johnson, and the next thing you know, here we go down to Muscle Shoals, Alabama to record. So we did a CD there, or tape there. I actually have a tape of that band, so that's pretty wild. And then not too long after that, my ex-wife Sharon, introduced me to Benny Mahan, the king of Springfield. And I'm going, wow. I went out to meet him and started sitting in with Benny. And the rest is kind of history. We started working together and recorded an album together. We jumped on the country music bandwagon and had a 4-year career and did all kinds of stuff, but we recorded a CD. But the funny thing about Benny is that nobody told this story in Granny's Bathwater, that he used to wear a toupee. And one day he had his toupee on and he liked to drive fancy cars. And a Cadillac was kind of a car that he really liked to drive. So they looked over at him driving his car and he had his toupee on and it was literally flapping on top of his head. So, of course, his name from thence to henceforth was Flap. And he didn't mind that, but, another funny story about him, he had the weakest stomach on the planet. One day we were driving over by the rendering plant, and he literally started getting sick. He had to pull over, open the door, and started dry heaving. So any kind of thing that he smelled would make him sick. And y'all probably know that know Benny. But he was like such a joy to play with, and I just feel so blessed. We cut that Black Stallion album. We opened a nightclub in Tulsa, Oklahoma called Willie's. And it's like, we're definitely jumping on that country music bandwagon. We also opened up a nightclub in Dallas, Texas called Duke's Country. And about this time, I started talking to lots of people that were telling me I needed to go to Nashville. Jim Kempinen, for one, and then Larry Lee of the Ozark Mountain Daredevils, and John Gowen, both of the Ozark Mountain Daredevils, and Granny's Bathwater. They were actually doing it in Nashville. So, and they were trying to get me to go. So I'm going, okay, I'll try. So I stayed. John Gowen, another guy that's really helped me in life, put me up for 6 weeks. And so I stayed with him until I, earned enough money to to move out and get my own apartment. And actually they told me to go out and start sitting in with bands, and that's the way you could get your name known around that, whenever somebody comes new to an area, that's one way to get your name known. So off I go. I went out and sat in with this band called Apollo, and at a jazz club called JC's. Well, after I sat in with the band, they were having trouble with their drummer, and they asked me if I wanted to start playing with them. A jazz band in Nashville, Tennessee, the country west, capital of the world. Most people don't really realize that there's jazz going on there. There's a really great jazz scene going on there, as well as contemporary Christian music. So, but anyway, I actually, got an audition with Tanya Tucker. Well, we were actually voted, so I need to back up. We were actually voted. We have an article over there. We were voted one of the best jazz bands in Nashville. So that's kind of weird. So, but anyway, after about a year and a half, Jim Kempton introduced me to Tanya Tucker. He was driving buses with Lock Raven Coach. And he was driving buses for Tanya Tucker. And told them about me and the drummer that they were using, Jeff Hale, was getting ready to go play with Waylon Jennings. So I went and auditioned for Tanya Tucker, and the next thing you know, I got the gig. So off we go, traveling all over the world. I traveled all over Europe, Canada, Korea, Japan, and Hawaii, which is unbelievable, actually. But I've got a couple of funny stories. One day we got off the bus, and this black guy recognized Tanya. And back in the 80s, most black people probably weren't that much into country music. Well, so she gets off the bus, we all get off the bus, and this black guy goes, "Hot damn, little Tammy Tucker." Who'd ever believe? So from then on, we called her Tammy, and she hated it. Hated it. Little Tammy Tucker. And then another funny thing we had happen, we were in Puerto Rico, of all places, and we decided to go down and have breakfast, because we just got there. So we go downstairs and we go to this open-air restaurant. And we're going, oh, well, cool. None of us had ever been in one of those places before. So when we look up and we see there's birds flying around and plants all over the place, and flowers growing here and there. Well, John Marcus, who's now the bass player for Tim McGraw, he says, what if a bird pooped? And exactly the time he said poop, a bird crapped in his coffee. So needless to say, the whole rest of the way, we're covering up our coffee cups. They're flying all over the dang restaurant. So that's just a crazy thing. We'd never seen a place like that before. Also got to meet Bob Dylan. We recorded in Toronto, and Bob Dylan was staying at the same hotel we were at. And Tanya calls up the band and says, y'all want to come meet Bob Dylan? Of course, we said, no. So anyway, we got to meet him, and a funny story about that. The guy that was actually running sound at the place we were playing, at the hotel, he liked the band so much, he asked how long we were going to be in town. And right next door is Manta Sound Recording Studio, which is one of the biggest recording studios in Canada. So, which is where Loverboy records. So this guy goes, you guys want to go and cut a song for me? So we actually went over and recorded at Manta Sound as well, which was a really cool thing to do. We also did some work with Vern Gosden as well, which is another story in itself. A bass player friend of mine who just passed away, Dave Rowe, we did lots of work together. We worked with Dottie West as well, together. But Dave was Johnny Cash's bass player, and just kind of became the upright guy in Nashville because nobody else could do it like him. And we had lots of funny stories, but one of the things that we did actually a TV show in Nashville, and I have a DVR of it over there. It was called Nashville Jams. We were recording it at the Union Station in Nashville, and it was catered to the songwriters. It was, to showcase the songwriters that actually most people don't realize that, the person that actually sings the song doesn't write the song. So anyway, I got this TV show showcased the songwriters. So anyway, it was getting ready to be released through Warner Brothers Network, and the label head had a falling out with the person that was trying to push it through. So it never got to be shown across the United States. Missed it by that much. All right, and then Larry Nectar, Steve, and Spooner Odom. They were two keyboard players that were sitting on both sides of the stage. Larry Nectar recorded Bridge Over Troubled Waters and was one of those wall of sound musicians. And Spooner Oldham has played with everybody. He's recorded with the Stones and just about everybody else you want to talk about. So sitting on both sides of me were two keyboard players that have done all kinds of crazy work. And then I guess the next thing was I met this guy named Kevin Stewart in Nashville. And there's all kinds of songwriters there. And he had an original rock band. And his music was pretty cool sounding. So we started rehearsing with this guy named Kevin Stewart. Well, I go to rehearsal one night, and up walks Jimmy Jameson of Survivor. And I'm going, oh my gosh. So he knew Jimmy Jameson, and he started to think about moving from Nashville to Memphis to be the entertainment coordinator at the Gold Strike. So he was at the Gold Strike. It was there was a one house band there, which is kind of not the norm. Usually you have like lots of bands come out and play those casinos. But Kevin Stewart worked a deal out where we were the house band, and you had to play with everybody had to play with our band. First night, the first New Year's Eve, we had Jimmy Jameson, of course, I told you that, of Survivor, and Bobby Kimball of Toto. Two just awesome singers. And Bobby Kimball had a #1 hit record in Austria. And the night that we played the New Year's Eve party, they liked the band so much they wanted to start booking us. So here we go to Austria, and I'm backing out Bobby freaking Kimball of Toto. I mean, I'm just going, oh my gosh, I got to pinch myself. So anyway, we had just really great musicians with that band, and every band I've ever played in is just had fabulous players. But also, whenever we played at the Gold Strike Casino, a blues legend named Jack Rowell was performing there as well. And Jack actually became my brother-in-law. My wife and his sister his wife is my wife's sister. Sorry. So we became brother-in-laws, and he was like the first guy I actually warmed up to. And he was just and so he was also praise and worship leader at a church called Church of the Harvest, and invited me to go to church. So I went to church with Jack Rowell, blues legend Jack Rowell. He's got a guitar hanging up in one of the nightclubs in Memphis. But anyway, so for 10 years, I went to this wonderful church, which is probably, just the best playing that I've ever wanted to do in my life is for the Lord. But anyway, sometimes you don't get to do that, but it was fabulous. While I was there, we at the Gold Strike, we also played with John Roth. John Roth plays with Mickey Thomas, guitar player John Roth. He plays with Winger, and he plays with a band called Giant. He recommended a band to me called Seventh Sundown, a progressive country band. And the guitar player's name was Jeff Cobble. So they auditioned me, and I got the gig, and we ended up going into Ardent Recording Studio because we got an investor and label interest. And I have the album, a CD over there as well. Actually go and record in Ardent, and we played throughout that area for 4 years. But anyway, that kind of blew up, and I reached out to the School of Rock because I wanted to start teaching drum lessons again. Back at Dave Bedell's, the drum key, I used to teach 40 students a week. So that's kind of something that I very much so enjoyed. And I reached out to them, and I went and did the audition, and got that audition, and the next thing you know, I've been there ever since. So here's a couple of the things that my teacher shared with, or my boss shared with me the other day. My manager came in and gave me these cards, and that the kids have to fill out. My teacher rocks because he is a great drum teacher. This is what makes it all worth it to me. He is a very skilled drummer, and he taught me ghost notes. Steve, you know what those are. Eddie Bungie knows what those are. He's silly and talented because he's nice and funny. And he looks old, but he's young. He looks old, but he's young. But he looks, sorry, I read that wrong. Because he's nice and funny, and he's old, but looks young. and that's what makes it all worth it. He is really fun and does whatever song I want. So that's what I try to do. Try to do whatever songs they want, because that gets them going. I wouldn't want to play to a song that I didn't enjoy. So anyway, that's pretty much all of it. We had some funny stories in Tanya's band. We all had nicknames. Seems like every band had a nickname, and I guess we do that to pass the time. My nickname in Tanya's band was Sergeant Carter, because I could do a good Sergeant Carter. Pile! And so then when I got with Dottie West, I was Vince, because Mark Crum, the bass player for Dottie West, who has this mane for hair, and Dottie was always like going, "Oh, Mark, your hair is just so lovely." So one night we're sitting at this bar, and she goes, "Oh, Mark, your hair is just really, really great." And she looks over at me and goes, "And you too, Stan?" And I go, "Well, some call me Vince." So from then on, I was Vince. I went from Sergeant Carter to Vince. But anyway, I guess we're going to do some questions after this. Thank y'all again for coming. I want to thank everybody, much so, for coming.
Any questions? Anybody?
What was it like playing with Tanya Tucker?
She's a hoot. On the stage, she's a lot of fun. But depending on how much she has to drink, not so much fun. But I think she's past all that. But we used to kind of say she could probably drink any man that I know under the table. But she's, I think, got a handle on that. But she was a lot of fun on stage. She would let us play. I mean, we didn't have to play the track exactly like the record. We could embellish, things for sure. We actually did Solid Gold, too, TV show.
When you moved into jazz, when you got that jazz job, did you play jazz before?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. I played jazz in Springfield, Missouri with Richard Bruton. There's a picture of on the square. Don Chips is in there, Chuck Francisco is in there, and me and Richard Bruton. And that would be Entropy.
What year would that have been?
You had to ask. It had to be probably 77, maybe right before I moved, or 78, 9. But
Yeah.
Hey Stan, of all the places you traveled to, did you have a favorite?
Probably not. Good question, no. I guess maybe all the islands that I've been to, I've just about traveled to just about every island you can go to. Jamaica. We went to Puerto Rico. We went to Grand Cayman. I mean, just about every island there is.
Was that with her?
Yep, we did a little bit with that with Dottie, but that gig only lasted until she, we were standing there waiting for her to come on to the Grand Ole Opry when she had her accident, and so 3 days later she died. She died of internal bleeding, but we were standing there at the Grand Ole Opry. We call it the Grand Ole Opry.
Did you ever tour in Europe?
Oh, all over with Tanya. Yep.
What was your favorite country?
Austria. Really cool. Beautiful, beautiful country. The pristine lakes. Also played over there with Bobby Kimball. He did a biker's tour, just like the Sturgis over here. They have one of those in Austria. So we actually did, I forget what it's called, but they had to bus us into this place because there were bikes everywhere. So in Austria.
Did you ever play Russia?
No, that would be a first.
Did you play in England?
Oh yeah, we were in London for 3 days, and
Where do you live now?
Tunica, Mississippi, which is about 20 minutes outside of Memphis.
Anybody else?
Did you do any studio work in Nashville?
Oh yeah, I was probably in almost 100 studios.
What are some of the records you played on that we might recognize?
They're sitting right up here.
We have to name.
Tony Tolliver would be one of them. He was Dolly West keyboard player and trying to get a record deal, which he got with Universal Records. His first band got to play on his record because James Stroud, a great drummer and producer in Nashville, Tennessee, named James Stroud, came out and heard the band. And let the band play on the first album. So Scotty Hawkins was the drummer. And when he left, they auditioned me, and I got the gig, and Stroud came out, the producer came out to hear me play, and so I got to play on the next album as well. It's right over there.
I got a question here back here. With Mark West sitting up there on the front row, what makes a good sound crew, a sound man in your studio?
Patience. It's patience. If you don't have patience, you're going to be struggling.
Are you still teaching today?
I am.
How many students do you have?
20 a week. I do 4 days a week now. Saturday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. 4 days a week.
Awesome.
Did you know Michael Rhodes?
Oh, heck yes. Great bass player. Wow. Just passed away. I ran into Michael Rhodes at Woodland Sound Studio. I did this really cool album there, and he was going in and I was coming out. He was going out and I was coming in. But we never got to work together. But wow, what a bass player. Whew.
In the picture there of Black Stallion, who's the bass player there with you guys?
Kenny Cox.
Who?
Kenny Cox.
Stan,
Yeah.
you did my first clinic for the percussion shop.
I did.
1982.
and you brought Black Stallion to, some hotel out on North Linsville, I don't remember. But that was incredible, and you told the kids you want to do a working clinic with a band. And so
Yeah, we got Frank Westbrook to come in there too. And I think Kenny played too.
Yeah, that was fun.
Oh, man.
Great fun.
That's the only one I've done so far. We need to do another one of those. That was fun.
What about
Back in the back.
professional drummers that you met? Buddy Rich?
Well, when I actually worked at the drum key with Dave Bedell, and Dave Bedell knew everybody. And these drummers would come to town Buddy Rich, Louis Belson. Louis Belson was just fabulous. He had the Tonight Show. Eddie Shaughnessy came. Roy Burns, a really good big band drummer, came. And so all these people I got to meet and sit there and talk to. Larry London came to town. Oh my gosh, just a wonderful guy, and would sit there and you could ask that guy any question and he would sit there and tell you whatever you wanted to learn. Larry London played with everybody in Nashville, Tennessee. He was the big dog in Nashville, Tennessee. When I moved to Nashville, Larry London was the guy. He also played on Steve Perry's first album. He played the song called "Oh Sherry." And that's him laying down that awesome drum track. Yes?
Stan, with some of your promising students that look like they really have it, what's the 2 or 3 things that you tell them to follow a career like yours, to become a professional, become a pro?
Good question. Do whatever it takes to learn your instrument. And that means if you're going to be a drummer, you better learn how to play those rudiments, because lots of people don't want to take the time to learn them. That's our vocabulary words. And that's what I try to tell my students. If you don't know your English vocabulary words, then you probably can't carry on a very good conversation. So I try to, convey that to my students. But try to learn as much as you can about the drums, because there's a whole lot to that. Even though
You've auditioned several times. What does an audition consist of for a drum?
Good question. One audition that I didn't actually get, I got an audition for, not Louise Mandrell, Barbara Mandrell. And they were like, really pays good, and I heard about the audition. And so what I was told to do was I had to learn, for this particular audition, I had to learn her music and read her music for this one, because all of her musicians read on the gig. Plus, she said, they told me I had to learn a song to sing. So I forget what song it was I sang, but she told me I had a really nice voice, and I said, well, coming from you, that's, wow, I can't believe you even said that, but I didn't get the audition. But that was one I wished I'd have got, because they paid $500 a show.
Wow.
But
Well, just a comment, you are a really good singer.
well, coming from a really good singer, that means a lot to me.
And I don't know if, there are lots of stories he's not telling you. So. But I hope there's a picture of the fro.
Oh, there's lots of pictures of that.
You want to see
Man.
some hair. This
Yep.
guy had a fro out here.
Yep, they're over there.
Great.
I don't know what the heck I was thinking, though.
It worked.
I guess so.
Didn't Don Brewer have a
Oh, big time. That's who I wanted to be. That was my fro, Don Brewer's fro. Grand Funk Railroad. One of the first bands I went to see was Grand Funk Railroad. Wow, they were awesome.
Anybody else have questions?
Where'd you go to high school and when did you graduate?
I went to high school at Parkview and graduated in 1973. Many, many years ago, many moon ago, Kimosabi.
A lot of you don't know that Stan is quite a chef, too. I met Stan when
Oh, my.
I worked at Earth Wonder, and that's the food store in Cafe, and you were the head chef, right?
Well, I became the head chef because everybody else quit.
The owner loved to wear the turbans.
Oh, yeah, the dreadful turbans. To keep our hair up, we had to wear a stupid turban.
Trying to wrap it. It was quite.
That took a minute for sure.
Is there a picture of that?
How many grandkids you got?
2. My son has a daughter, and my daughter has a son.
Thanks for doing this. This has been
Oh,
fun.
Gosh. Thank you. Thank you.